We all know the tasteless casuals hype garbage all the time, but what is the idiotic reasoning they use for generating said hype? Here are 10 reasons. Number 1. Pretty colors and nice sounds. This is self-explained. It's amazing because it looks and sounds amazing. Who cares about plot and characters? Number 2. Selling on name. Having famous people in the production team or the show being a low-effort spin-off of a much better series is guaranteed to attract a lot of people who will like it and hype it right away. Number 3. It's an adaptation of a source material many like. The popularity of a title explodes only when it's based on a manga, light novel or video game. The more fans the source has, the more hype the adaptation is generating, regardless of how good it actually is. Number 4. Nobody knows the ending, either because the show is an anime original or because the source material is still ongoing. The moment people know how it ends, most of the hype is gone. Number 5. Theory crafting. Because the show has mysteries or conflicts, the resolution of which is not known, therefore everything is possible and all predictions count. It doesn't matter how stupid the whole thing is, it only matters that it makes you speculate. Number 6. Cliffhangers. If a show with mystery and action always ends an episode in moments full of tension, then everybody wants to know what will happen next, regardless of if everything could be easily solved or avoided. Number 7. Urge. Makes the emotional fags to think a show is mature and thrilling when it's just misery porn regarding angsty teenagers and tortured children. Number 8. Double standards in themes by being serious on paper and silly in execution. If the author is deliberately being lazy about interesting concepts, then the fans will start filling the blanks with their imagination, which will make it seem like the story is amazing because they imagine it being exactly as they want it to be. They will say stuff like, "It's real and it happens all the time out there." And when someone points out how vague and badly conceived the whole thing is, they will just see the silly parts of the show and say, "It's fictional, you're not supposed to take it seriously, it's just entertainment, so have fun with it and don't think much about it." Number 9. Eccentric main characters. As long as you have one major character being over the top, he carries the whole show and everybody loves and hypes it just for that. Extra points if the major character is a psychotic cute girl. And number 10. The need to hype something new every season. It is very meta, but it's true. Even if a season is complete crap, the fans will surely find something to hype, no matter how stupid it is, because that is the only thing that keeps them going. Some people are surprised with Dragon Ball Super surpassing the popularity of One Piece in its current episodes, even though it's pretty obvious to see how that happened. You honestly find it weird that a major showdown of a show we do not know what will happen next because there is no manga does better than the build-up of another show where we do know what will happen next thanks to the source material? Where do you think all the excitement is currently at? Nostalgia was definitely not the only thing that helped the Super to surpass One Piece, since this is the first time it happened 7 years after they began milking the franchise with Dragon Ball Kai. The name was not enough, it also needed to cater the fans with all the favorites instead of revisiting older material or introducing new characters. There is a reason Resurrection of F sold a lot more than Battle of the Gods, or why the Goku Black arc is way more popular than the Champa arc. They brought back Frieza and Trunks, two of the most iconic characters who could normally never be seen again, while rehashing ideas we have seen and liked in the past, even though they should not be relevant at this point. It's the same thing that worked so well for The Force Awakens, reusing the exact same formula while at the same time pretending to be a completely new story. Also keep in mind that there is nothing much for hype-tards to fangasm about in this season. They were starving for a circle jerk, and were willing to find anything available no matter how shitty it is. Also they had to find it amongst the new shows, because watching older titles is incomprehensible to them. Guess which airing shows have action, mystery and lots of theory crafting for endless pretentious overthinking that will give them easy traffic and money? Only one, and it's Dragon Ball Super.
Money, 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 money.
Fun fact, it's far from the first time and surely not the worst that this happened. If you remember summer 2015, when the internet was overflowing with Hestia fanservice images, because there was nothing else to circle jerk about. Other than that, it's definitely not the script that helped Dragon Ball surpass One Piece, since the plot makes absolutely no sense even when Toriyama is desperately trying to make sense of it. Just look at this mess that it's supposed to officially explain how time travel works in the current arc. None of that is possible without creating a new timeline or giving more than 5 minutes for Zamasu to get the ring and do a dozen things before Whis resets time. Bottom line, the community is filled with man-children seeking instant self-gratification and are willing to drop really low for it.
You didn't see that coming? cliffhangers. Cliffhanger central. Like, you should always expect a cliffhanger in this series where you're like, fuck, I want to know, and you just gotta wait till next week. If there's one thing this writer knows what to do, it's definitely those cliffhangers. Like, those cliffhangers definitely make you want to read the next chapter and find out what is about to happen next.
You didn't see that coming?
In fiction, there is this thing called hype backlash. It's the effect of many people loving something while it's still airing, and after a certain amount of time, many others are hating it. The typical explanation comes from the fans of such titles, who will always try to excuse it as people love to hate what is popular, and they seem to forget that they are the ones which created this hatred in the first place. Think of it like waves on a beach. A certain amount of water splashes on the land and then slowly flows back in the sea. The more water flows back, the bigger will be the wave that will be created by it. Using this analogy, the more hype a title has, the bigger its critique will be once the backlash kicks in. Therefore, the thing which mostly creates anti-hype is hype itself.
Attack on Titan blew my expectations out the water. They did a phenomenal job. Tops anything. So beautiful. Freaking outstanding times 10. It was just freaking flawless. 10 out of 5.
All anime suck!
At this point, you may wonder, why exactly does anti-hype appear after the hype and not at the same time? The main reason is motivation. The initial wave that creates hype involves only those who were invested in watching the show as soon as it came out. The second wave involves people who were not interested in the beginning and became interested because of the hype. The reason the second wave is heavy on anti-hype is because their expectations are so much higher than the first wave that it becomes extremely hard to meet or surpass them. As a result, most will feel disappointed and we get the hype backlash. There are of course cases when we begin with anti-hype because the first wave is disappointed with what the promotion of a show was promising, followed by hype coming from the second wave, which had very lowered expectations and wasn't bothered as much. The logic is the same, it's just far more uncommon to happen. The thing is, since we live in the information age, data and along with it multiple opinions transfer very fast. The amount of time it takes to move from the opinion of the first wave to the counter opinion of the second wave is usually very short. Most of the times it's less than a year. Sometimes we can even have both waves going at the same time with conflicting opinion, thus labeling a title controversial. Before the internet, this took a lot more time to happen, sometimes even decades, before the backlash was created. This is why older titles could enjoy decades of being considered the greatest, while newer ones struggle to stay on the top of popularity for a single season. And that is something which younger anime fans misunderstand. Modern titles have as an advantage things like novelty, hype, popularity, better production values. This tends to give them a lot of value in the eyes of newer fans. When said fans look at older titles, most of them wonder why are these so popular or why were they considered to be that great. They don't look as wonderful as recent titles, their stories are hard to get into, the characters feel generic, and their themes are stuff you can find in many much newer and better titles. The reason this happens is because they judge retro titles with modern mentality. Many older titles may not feel so great now, but back when they originally came out, they were groundbreaking. The reason they no longer feel groundbreaking is because later titles copied all their ideas and added all sorts of variations, twists and flavors, to the point the initial amazing idea no longer feels amazing because so many did the same thing. And that is what needs to be made clear when we are talking about the value of a show. Retro titles no longer have novelty or hype or popularity. What they have is historical value. It's like veteran soldiers from World War II. Today they may appear to be nothing but senile old farts to the newer generation, but back in their youth they did things none of the brats who experience war only through movies and video games can possibly understand. The world may have moved on and forgotten their deeds, but they still shaped the world with their actions. Of course, historical importance is something that matters only for shows which had something new to offer when they first came out. There is another type of value which is based on nostalgia. Many older titles were never that good, even in their prime, but they were lucky enough to be the only ones airing in a specific country and year, with nothing better airing at the same time. This made them seem amazing to the audience, which grew up watching them and considers them special for being their gateway titles, or simply because they invested so much time watching hundreds of episodes to the point they were fully immersed. You know, hooked, addicted, fully absorbed because there was nothing better to distract them. TV Tropes has an entry for such shows, calling it Seinfeld is unfunny, in which people no longer care about a show that, although was never bad, it just doesn't give people any reason to watch it because there is nothing special in it anymore. What must also be made clear is that eventually both historical importance and nostalgia are facing their critique. There is nothing strange in that. It's a completely natural process for people to look back at what came before them and challenge their importance. Eventually there is always going to be a second opinion about something, which can even overtake the initial opinion once superficial elements such as novelty are gone. There is also a third type of value, which has to do with artistic overtones. It's usually grouped along with production values, which makes it seem superficial, since old shows have dated visuals and don't look spectacular. They don't just survive the test of time. Cinematics and music score, on the other hand, can remain important for a much longer period of time. The inexperienced eye, though, finds it very hard to concentrate enough and tell apart a well-animated from a well-directed title. Thus, this type of value is something not everybody can comprehend and appreciate. I can even say it is the least important compared to script and character appeal. Cinematics can only buff what is already there, they do not add something extra. Thus, if there is no real content to buff, such as interesting themes or developed characters, they are very superficial and it doesn't matter how well they are done. Another type of value which matters even less than cinematics are the sales. The term value only translates to how successful is a title in terms of profits. It can dictate if it's profitable for a company to make another season, or something similar to what sells, but it otherwise doesn't prove a title is good because it sold a lot of copies or had a high enough viewership. Many viewers are of course using it as a very weak proof of how good a show is, like, if it sold a lot and is so popular, it is obviously a good show. This doesn't have any real merit once you realize how lots of things that lack substance sell a lot simply because of good promotion. In fact, that is the main reason hype backlash comes into being and causes a lot of unnecessary drama. Experienced fans are more immune to such baits and can see past the superfluous glamour and tell apart the true values of a series. And if all that confused you, here's a TLDR.